Hi, welcome to the Photo Flunky Show, episode 141. In today's episode, we'll be talking about places where you share your photos and wondering, is it the right place? Thanks for joining us on the Photo Flunky Show. My name is William Beam.
Hi, my name is Lee Beam.
And there's three things we kind of want you to take away from this episode. And why should you be sharing your photos? I know a lot of people who actually take photos and share everything they do. And I know other people who really don't share anything. They're doing it just for themselves. And we also want to talk about what is the benefit of sharing the stories that you're telling within your photographs. And finally, where is the best place to share your stories and your photographs? So those are some of the things that we were thinking about. And we've kind of got a little twist on it towards the end, I think, about what you share and where you share it. And
yeah.
We've got some opinions on that, but we wanted to...
No, we've got opinions on everything. We're on that, some opinions.
Before we get into that, I want to let you know that show notes are going to be available at williambeam.com/episode 141. Are there stories, are there photos that you create just for yourself?
I do have some, but I would say that I don't know that I've ever taken a photo that is exclusively for me. I mean, I've done it where the experience or maybe the learning aspect of taking that photo or the self-development as a photographer or something else has been my motivation for taking the picture. But if you don't share it, to me, and that's just me, it's not saying it's not that there's anything wrong with taking photos for yourself. I think most of us, when we are happy with something, we share it. So when you take a photo and you don't share it, to me, it's going to be a very rare example where somebody doesn't show anybody at all.
I've always broken down photos into two major categories. There are photos that are events, things that are happening and you want to capture it. And then there are photos that you create, whether it could be explanatory, it could be a work of art, but basically it's something that you determine everything that goes into that photo. Where the location is, who is the person that's in it, or animal, or whatever your subject may be. So either you're capturing something or you're creating something, and that's very broad. There are some kinds of photos that I understand why people don't want to share them publicly. And the first thing that comes to mind, some people like taking intimate photos of each other.
Yes.
And
actually, I don't generally share family photos publicly. It's something rare and occasional.
We've taken our photos like family vacations. When I say intimate, that could be personal as far as your family, or it could be something that's a bit more bedroom oriented, intimate. That I don't know why. I've never been a person that's wanted to take photos in the bedroom. And those are the things that you hear about people later on after they've broken up, that those things kind of come out. And I thought that just seems to be a mess that's not really worth getting into in the first place.
Well, that's true. And I mean, each to their own, if it works for you, that's fine. But I would just say exercise extreme caution with sharing them outside of that's whoever is present with you in that moment.
Those are the ones I don't think are ever meant to be shared. And, maybe it's my limited imagination, but that's really either very personal family things or very intimate couple things are things that you don't share typically. But other than that, I'm not sure what you take that you really don't want to share.
Well, okay, here's an example. Photos, I didn't do this. There wasn't time, but here's an example of taking photos, giving birth. That's a really special moment. Mm-hmm. And I think any couple, both the mom and the dad, will attest to the fact that you are both so overwhelmed. It feels like there's so much going on at the time that you almost lose the moment. You just do not have the capacity to take it all in. And having photos of that is something I do regret not having photos of it. But I was also, do not bring a camera, do not touch me. And that's an example of photos where if I had them, I wouldn't be sharing them even with immediate family. That would be something very, very personal. At least some of the photos, but I think it is something that I'd like to look back on.
And that kind of brings us to the topic that we originally had in mind for this episode: is like, would you share this photo with your kids?
Yeah, this is a big thing to me, and I'm extremely conscious of it from the complete opposite end of what I was when Tove was a kid. But seeing both sides.
I can tell you, I'm coming up on 55 years old. I would not want to see a photo or video of me coming out of my mother.
No, you don't. And you don't want people sharing. Look, some people do, and some people just are quite comfortable with that. That's fine. You might be comfortable sharing it. The question is, does everybody in your audience want to see it? Now, if you're selecting who gets to see it and that you've got some privacy control on your social media platform or however you're sharing it, that's different. You kind of are making a determination. But if you kind of putting it out there for all your friends, like anybody who's one of your followers, or if you're putting it out publicly, maybe not everybody wants to see it. I don't want to see somebody else, not even my immediate family.
I don't want to see a blackened toenail from somebody else. That's just something that I wish they would keep to themselves. But people post those things on Facebook, or like, ooh, I've got this problem, and here, take a look at the picture of it. I think I just don't want to see that.
Actually, I posted my bee sting this morning.
Yeah. That's not as bad as some of the things I've seen. One of the things that, I guess it kind of got me towards this thing of what you share and where you share it, and should you share it, has to do with some of the photos I see on Instagram and Facebook. And I'm into portraits, and I've started following, a number of models, and I've realized it's taken a trend almost towards soft porn. There is a lot of skin showing up, and every once in a while I will come across something where they have blurred out, the sensitive bits that you're not allowed to show on these platforms. And they say, oh, is it really so bad if we show a nipple, or if we show this, that, and the other? And I thought, maybe you're trying to show something like that in the wrong place.
That's exactly my thought. I mean, if the platform does not allow it, then perhaps you need to take that photo twice, and take it once for the place where it's appropriate to share it, and then just cover up, because there was something different. Basically you blur out a portion of something that is going to take your photo from acceptable to not acceptable. You may as well just cover it up when you take the photo. And somehow when you cover it up, taking the photo, it has that sort of message that it doesn't come across as, oh, this is kind of tacky or sleazy or inappropriate, because it's covered. When you blur something out, it immediately, and I think that might be part of the attraction for some people, but when something is blurred out, it almost feels like, well, I'm not allowed to have this here, but I found a way around it. That's really how I see it.
Well, I think what's happening is people realize that the largest audience is on Facebook and Instagram for their photos, and therefore say, I want to get people to look at them, and they're shooting, implied nude, the full nude, or something scantily clad. And those kind of photos get a lot of attention and a lot of attraction. But they don't get that kind of attention attraction typically for the photography itself.
They don't.
So
it's in the moment.
And if you're showing that on that platform, here's the problem I've got. One, what do we say? The minimum age to get accepted on Facebook is supposed to be 13.
Yeah. And given that, you also have to realize that kids have sort of been socially pressured into getting certain social media accounts at a younger age. And I had this with Tove, when she was 10, and the age was 13, and it said no, and then realized that she was being left out of things because pretty much all her friends had a Facebook account. So I had to change it. So a lot of and that meant that when I signed her up, I had to change her year of birth.
Yeah.
And that is really how people got around it. Now, we had a different approach for how we controlled this and managed it, and it worked for us. But the point is that you have kids who are able to log in outside of their parents' supervision and view things. Do you want your kids to see this? And if you do, no judgment on you, but if you don't, and I think we're addressing the people who say, I don't want them to see this.
And we're kind of thinking about, you don't even have to be following somebody who's sharing these things. You could be part of a group, and then sometimes these photographs will come up. And that's because, the group may not necessarily be about nudity or scantily clad women, but people post vacation photos for a location, and suddenly they're hardly wearing anything at all. The child could be there for a completely innocent reason, and then suddenly they're exposed to something that is a bit more adult. Right. And I kind of like the fact that Facebook's rules prohibit nudity, because there are going to be kids out there, and not just children. There are also going to be adults who said, look, this is not really what I want to do with my life. I've got, my husband or wife, I've got a good relationship going. I don't necessarily want to look at everything else. And that, not because that they're squeamish, it's just a preference.
Nudity doesn't bother me. I'm not offended by it. It doesn't upset me. It's just, I really don't. I'm not interested. I don't need to see that.
Well, you know what this got me was, like I said, I follow a lot of models on Instagram, and I'm realizing the trend is getting worse. A few years ago, just before Lee came over here, I was showing her some, shots of the workshop I went to. And this was a specific nude workshop. I think only one of the models there was actually nude. The others were kind of implied or scantily clad. And I took the shots. I was glad and grateful for the experience. But I also realized this is not where I want to take my photography, because if I do, the people who follow me aren't going to be following me for me or anything I have to say. They're going to say, oh, can you get this model? Can you get that model? Can you have her pose this way or that way? And I thought, that's not really what I want my photography to be about. I don't have a problem with nudity or attractive people, in photos. But it's getting to the point now where I look at some of the people I followed a few years ago, and they are starting to get more and more adult in their photographs. I was at a car dealership, waiting for some service to be done the other day, and I started looking at my Instagram account, and I said, I don't want somebody looking over my shoulder and seeing some of these photos.
Yeah.
So I'm following the wrong people now.
But the social media is to blame. They've been playing games with these algorithms the whole time, and they're making it harder and harder to get traction just by doing what you originally signed up to do, and that's posting and sharing. I mean, in the good old days, I would put up a photo. Anybody who was my friend, unless they'd chosen to, to hide my stuff, whatever I posted showed up in their newsfeed. That's also a great way to figure out which friends to get rid of if they're bugging you. But that's kind of how it was, and that's what I expect. And on the other side, I've noticed that there are people who I thought, man, I haven't seen them post for a while. And I go and I have a look, and they've been posting every day. And I think, well, I was actively engaging in their stuff and vice versa for, a couple of years. Why did Facebook or Instagram stop showing their stuff in my newsfeed? Because I have seen nothing. What it comes down to is that they have made it so hard to get attention now that people are doing things to try and be outrageous to get noticed. And you've got this Instagram Explore thing, that feature that came out now. And really, I don't know if you guys remember the Flickr Explorer. You kind of want to do something that is a real attention grabber to get in there. And I think that whatever people are doing, if they're modeling, they feel like they need to take off more clothing, or they need to do this or do that. This extremism, I refuse to play. I was just saying to William this morning, my traction has reduced by about 60%, even though I'm doing more on there since January of this year. And that's all algorithms. I've noticed a similar trend on other accounts that I follow. So if you weren't already huge, when these changes took place, basically you're a nobody. And the reason we're nobodies is because we are not paying for advertising. I won't pay for advertising. It's, the stuff's there because that's where I want to share my stories.
Well, advertising is for a business. You're not necessarily trying to earn money from your social media endeavors. You might have something where you do something for a business, but that's a separate transaction. It's not where you want to get something advertised on there. And by the way, we do have a live guest in the studio. His name is Milo. You can probably hear him barking in the background.
Yeah, just ignore him, please. He's very loud.
Yes, he is.
And disruptive.
There are a couple of models I know that have actually gone down this trend. The workshop I mentioned, some years ago, there was one model there who said, look, I don't mind wearing lingerie, and she was quite comfortable doing that, but she was very adamant, I don't pose nude. I thought, okay, I respect that. I liked that about her. And I just recently, over the past year or so, I've looked at her Instagram, and she is like full bore showing what she's got.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that was a business necessity or a change. I don't know what changed, but I kind of lost, where before she had a line that she had drawn, and now that line has gone away.
Very much.
I kind of lost, any respect I had for that standpoint she had in the past. And I haven't spoken to her. I don't know why she's decided that she's going to, go from just only so far to showing, everything she's got. There was another one who's a local model. Now she's on Instagram. She's got more than 1 million followers, and she's trying to show, at least implying, everything that she's got in a very luxurious environment, going from Beverly Hills to Las Vegas to Dubai and all these places. And apparently it's working for her. But I wonder what happens to the business that they're creating with these Instagram profiles showing their body when they age out.
Yeah, and you do age out.
Well, there are always going to be beautiful young women coming up, and they're going to be beautiful women who are moving on to something else.
That's right.
So it's in the world is fickle. Who they like today is not necessarily who they're talking about in a year from now.
That's right. I mean, that is a model issue or an account holder issue, as a, rather than a photographer problem. But
it is. But they're also, a lot of them are doing selfies, and they're showing themselves in this way on Instagram. And I keep coming back to, is Instagram really the right place for this? Just because it's a photo sharing site, they've got restrictions on what you can show. And is this the kind of thing that you want someone to be looking over your shoulder in an airport or any place else, seeing these folks, and they are. I get it. There's an audience for this. I know that these models would not have millions of followers, probably, if they weren't showing as much as they are showing.
No, you're quite right. But my view is that no matter where you go, whether it's Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, or anywhere else, if there is a line that's been drawn about what's appropriate, if you have to modify your photo to make it permissible to post it there, and there are places that you can post things without modifying.
Well, 500px has a nude plate,
but it's in a specific category, so people know where they're going. But the point is, if you have to modify it, you're, as far as I'm concerned, you're posting it in the wrong place. It basically says I had to bend the rules to put this photo here because it's inappropriate. I don't. Not only do I not want that, but primarily my whole take, and I was very clear. I mean, I said to you when I started my little running blog, on the blog itself and on social media, and that includes when I share something publicly to my personal profile, I do not use any language on there or any terms that are not appropriate for a 7-year-old sitting next to mom or dad who's reading over their shoulder. And I did that on purpose because that's not to say that it's good or that it's a better way to go, but I just decided that all kinds of people are into fitness. I'm looking to reach out and help just regular people like me. And if they have a family, I don't want anything to get in the way and to be uncomfortable. I want them to be able to relax and say, I've let that open, walked away from the laptop or the phone, and not think, oh no, the kids are around. So I modify stuff. And when I want to post something or use a word that's not foul language, but if I want to use a word that I think that wouldn't be cute if a 5-year-old said it, I actually restrict my audience accordingly. And it doesn't go on anything to do with my running stuff or anything where my followers can see.
And I've tried to do the same thing. Now, I'll admit, because just a few episodes ago, we did an episode of basically things photographers say. And the first word that I used on the title of that was something that you probably wouldn't want to hear coming from a 5-year-old or 7-year-old.
Not mine.
But the rest of the content on there, we didn't use any profanity or words. But yet I still marked that episode when I uploaded it, to my podcast host and marked it for iTunes and other directories as explicit, not clean, because I don't want someone searching through one of these directories and coming up with my article or my podcast episode that might be offended by that. Is if it's marked explicit, at least they know, okay, there's a word in there that's not appropriate for, some audiences.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I've tried to keep everything on the blog and on the podcast something that you could play anywhere you want to. And I think that after that one experience, I liked it. I thought it was funny because there was that popular thing going on a few years ago with, stuff my dad says. Uh-huh. I'm not going to use the word here because I don't want to mark this one as explicit. It was in that vein, and it was cute. It was funny, and that was all it was intended to be. But that was kind of the end of how much of that language I intend to use for the things that I produce. Certainly not on the blog, not on the YouTube channel, and not here on a regular basis. We've got some business folks we know that they are quite fluent and happy with adult language. And let's face it, in my own life, I am too.
Yep, me too. But we're careful where we're very aware of where we do it. So we're quite free when we're in our own space.
And we kind of want to keep that same thing going with our photographs. It's like, what photos are we taking? I've gotten to the point now, it's like I still enjoy taking pictures of interesting people rather than necessarily just beautiful people. Anybody can take a beautiful photo of a beautiful woman. But can you take a really nice photo of an interesting person, someone who's done something or has an expression or has some texture in their face?
Yeah, and there's a story.
Yeah. And those are the things that we're looking at. We're looking at photos where you're taking some kind of a story and thinking, where do I share them and where do I not share them? I don't have the slightest problem if anybody listening wants to take adult photographs. But I'm getting to the realization that they shouldn't be shared in the same places where people bring their kids or families.
No, you want some kind of sensor on there, or at least the option where you have to click through so that you don't accidentally stumble upon it. I don't want it flashing up in front of people. And don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm probably a bit of a weirdo. I'm, primarily into running life, not gym life, because that's how I started. It might be a 50-50 now. A gym scene is different. Language there, anything goes. And I understand that. I'm not the least bit offended by it. But I have to be consistent. The way I started is the way I need to commit and follow through. And I'm quite happy to do that.
Which kind of brings us all the way around to one of the takeaways I mentioned is, what are the benefits of sharing your stories? We want to attract an audience, and that could be because we want to share something that we experienced. Maybe, I just saw my cousin posting a photo of her daughter going to her first homecoming, with her boyfriend. And I thought that's a nice story. I really like seeing that's something that, I understand why she shared that on Facebook. Then I go to some of the groups on Facebook and I see some of the model photographs that are they might be well done, but to me, they're kind of inappropriate for a portrait group. I think of a portrait.
They're not going to homecoming like that.
Yeah, I think of a portrait different than a boudoir scene
or nude or
something like that. Yeah, and I'm thinking, why are they there? Because that's where the audience is. But I think they're trying to force something, a square peg into a round hole. The rules are there. You shouldn't have to blur your photos in certain places to make them fit within the rules.
Yeah, post them where you can just show them in their glory.
And I think there are places for that. Model Mayhem has a nude category or filter that you can put on there. So if you don't want to see them, you won't see them so long as they're appropriately marked. The same thing with 500px. And I presume that there are other sites out there. But
I'm sure, yeah.
The reason that you want to share your photos is you want to interact with people. And particularly for portrait photographers or boudoir photographers, you want to either attract more clients or you want to work with other photographers. You want to work with models and makeup and locations that are helping you there. And if you're trying to make sales, you need to go to where your audience is. I don't think Facebook is really where the audience is, that people are looking to buy something.
No, really not, usually.
And if you're looking for photography advice, I think you can learn what you need about photography without necessarily kind of going across that line.
That's also true, yeah.
And on Instagram, it's becoming a place, I think, where if you're looking at portraits, it's for horny teenagers more than anything else.
It is. And I mean, look, I'm watching the fitness scene. I mean, some of the stuff, I look at what people are wearing and think,
the cheekies.
There's a place for some of this. What you wear on a track where it might be, it could be a public place, but it's not the same as running through neighborhoods where kids are playing on their bikes. There are certain clothes that you just don't wear outside. I mean, it's like I said to you the other day. I said, these shorts I would wear here and not there. There's running clothes, there's gym clothes. And there's nothing inappropriate about them. But, I draw different lines depending on where I am. And also, I don't really want to be advertising to people. And I'm no prude. I'm posting every day photos of myself in kind of skinny shorts and maybe a crop top or a tank top.
All right, but here's one of the things I've noticed. To me, this is a funny difference. When you're posting your fitness photos, it's like after your run, you're sweaty, your hair's all over the place.
Yeah, no makeup.
And quite honestly, you look like a mess.
Yeah.
And that's part of why you're doing it that way.
Because that's what I look like when I'm done with the run.
Yet some of these fitness models, they'll show a shot of them in the gym with some weights or sometimes a little bit of a video, and they're showing their form as they're pulling these weights and back and forth. And I thought, not a single drop of sweat on any of them.
No, and I've actually seen people in a gym sitting around talking and taking selfies and moving from one place to another for more photos. I've actually watched it, and really no work got done. I mean, when you're walking back out with immaculate makeup and smooth hair, you didn't work like I did.
No, it's like, look, I worked out for 11 years and I don't anymore. I'm a large man who sits on the couch eating cheese chips. But when I worked out, I walked out of my workouts drenched in sweat. There was just simply no way that you could go do a proper workout without breaking a sweat. If you didn't break a sweat, you didn't work out.
Well,
but when I see these photos of people like showing like, here's my workout, I'm thinking, all right, you need to have a special place to go put your workout photos where you don't have a sweat.
Yeah. It's okay. I think it's one of those things people don't talk about them, and the newcomers or people not familiar with the environment initially look at it and think, oh, wow, I wish I looked like. And the reality is when you step back and think, really, how real do you think that is? I think most people eventually figure out, hang on a second, she's not sweaty. She still got perfect makeup on. I think people notice that eventually. I don't really care who does and doesn't. I am as I am when I come back, and I can tell you, I do not look. I couldn't walk out and go to the grocery store after a workout. It would be embarrassing.
No, it's
you especially.
I'm not saying anything because I'm a smart husband, but we kind of have been around the horn on this episode. But really, what came up was just: are you sharing your photos and your stories in the right place? And we're not telling anybody, we're not suggesting to anybody that you shouldn't take whatever photos are interesting to you, what you'd like to do, what's appropriate for you to do. But we are suggesting that maybe where you share them might be showing up for people that you didn't intend.
Yeah.
And that's not directed, at every certain person. But if you're taking, some of the more adult oriented photos, I kind of think that Facebook and Instagram has a lot of that. And I think it's kind of missing the mark. And here's one of the consequences I think that's probably going to be forthcoming. If you're on Twitter, you might occasionally see something and wonder, why am I getting this? I'm not following this person. And then you find out it's because, someone you are following liked it. And then it's showing up. How long is it going to be before Instagram starts showing your followers the things that you are liking that maybe you wish they didn't know?
Yeah, because Facebook's doing it. I mean, I've had a look and thought, why? I get a notification, I go click on it. It turns out that somebody who's on my friends list or acquaintance list has liked, commented, or followed something. And really, it maddens me because there are times when I don't want to know what they think or like beyond a certain line. That is their business. I don't need to know. And basically, it comes down to you cannot unsee something.
And I'm kind of noticing this because, like I said, I followed as a networking method with a lot of the local models around here. And then I started finding more models. Now, next thing I know, I've got Russian models that are following me, for my photography. But as I'm looking through my Instagram feed, I'm thinking, this has turned into something I didn't anticipate. Yeah. I started liking things that honestly I didn't like. I just wanted other people to know that I was paying attention to this particular photographer or model. And now I'm coming back and thinking, man, what if somebody starts seeing some of the stuff that's showing up in front of me? I need to change a lot of the things that I've done with some of the people that I'm following. Not that they're bad people, not that they shouldn't be doing what they're doing. It's not the direction that I want to go, and it's not the reputation that I want to build for myself should someone else start seeing what I'm liking.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's almost a game. It's like, it's not even sometimes about the photograph. It's about the person who took the photograph, and you want to be seen as supporting them and supporting their work and so forth.
That also means that if you have a social media account that's dedicated to your photography, be very, very careful about being logged into that account and leaving comments or even liking something or favoriting something. That's not even a word, but, any kind of engagement on any topic that may not be good for your photography account, log out and do it with your personal one, assuming it's not public as well and linked, because unfortunately I have removed followers and even friends, and I mean real life friends, because of stuff that was coming up that we're still friends, but we cannot do it on social media because it was like, I don't want to know.
You start seeing a side of somebody that you'd rather not know about.
I don't want to see that. I still like them. I still get along with them. But that's stuff that, it started to build up and thought it was starting to affect my view of the person, which wasn't fair.
We've seen that with politics too, particularly with the last election cycle. There are people that are, I think of as very dear friends, but they have very different political beliefs than I do. They were very angry and bitter about the way they expressed them. And I just said, you know what? I'm going to stop following you. It's not that I don't like you. It's not that I won't shake your hand or give you a hug the next time I see you. But this is
they're not social media friends.
Yeah, it's like I would rather know these people, when I get a chance to see them. And the same thing is happening. I'm finding out with some photographs. It's I like you. I think you're a great person, but this is not the kind of stuff that I want to be bringing in. It's not the kind of stuff that I want someone to look over my shoulder and see when I'm flicking through Instagram.
Yeah, basically, if you've got if you're posting things in the public place, and we're talking about the photos here. your captions, your comments, or anything else you engage in from those accounts is public. Everybody can see it. And even if you don't put it out for somebody to see it, as soon as you respond or engage or react, even if it's on somebody else's post, you don't know when that's going to be pushed out. And you don't get a notification that everyone was notified that you commented on something or said something.
So it's just something to think about. It's like, where is the appropriate place to show your photos? Who is it that you really wouldn't want to see those photos? And if other people start getting notified that you like this or you like that, think about your reputation. Is that who you want to be known for? Doesn't matter to me if you say, yes, I do, or whatever your view is on this. That's fine. It's just one of those things to think about. We all have kind of our private moments, and sometimes social media makes them public in ways that we did not anticipate.
Well, it depends what you're liking as well. I mean, if you're just liking somebody's photo because you enjoy it, I mean, if you basically, if you're not putting anything too personal out there or too controversial, I guess it doesn't matter. But I would say, yeah, when you get to the line where you may be alienating some of your followers, that's where you need to make a choice.
I guess I look at it this way. It's like adults can do what adults want to do, but when they're putting in a place that other adults don't want to see it, or they certainly don't want their children to see it, then you're kind of forcing your views on someone else in a way that probably shouldn't be.
Everything has a consequence, some good, some not.
Thank you so much for joining us on the Photo Flunky Show, episode 141, which means you can find show notes available at williambeam.com/episode 141. And we would really like to invite you to subscribe to us on iTunes. You can go to williambeam.com/iTunes. You can find a link to subscribe on the show notes page. If you're on your phone or mobile device, go ahead and subscribe right now. It'll make you feel good. You'll really be happy for it. Trust me, I promise. And of course, if you want to listen to some of our other shows, go to photoflunky.com. You'll find a player there, and you get a chance to check out some of our past episodes. Thank you so much. We'll see you again next week.